Built between 1982 and 1992, the third-generation Chevrolet Camaro sits in a unique place in automotive history. Everyone recognizes the name, and most people know the shape. The real story behind this car is packed with corporate rule-breaking, legal workarounds, and at least one decision that left the development crew red-faced for years. What follows are 20 details about the third-generation Camaro most fans have never heard, that might change how you view this classic vehicle. That sharp, wedge-shaped body hid a secret priority. Most people assume it was designed purely to look fast, and it does look fast. The aerodynamic shape carried a different objective in the drafting room, because owners of older Camaros kept filing complaints about highway wind noise. Those long drives often turned into loud endurance contests. Chevrolet's design team ran the new model through a wind tunnel with multiple goals in mind, focusing on reducing drag and improving high-speed stability. The angled surfaces and sloped body lines cut through air so cleanly that drag and wind noise dropped noticeably compared to previous generations. Speed was simply a side effect of the design. Quiet was the actual target, and the creators achieved it perfectly. Shaping the third-generation Camaro relied on design methods spearheaded by chief designer Jerry Palmer. The car featured a striking shape that was heavily sculpted using standard practices rather than the computer assistance seen in European cars a decade prior. Designers formed the recognizable exterior using hands-on clay modeling and standard drafting techniques. Early rough digital outlines helped technicians calculate basic body proportions and aerodynamic surfaces faster than hand-drawn blueprints could have managed. Even though the on-screen images looked nothing like a finished vehicle, that early computing hardware produced a highly recognized automotive silhouette. At first glance, the rear hatch pane looks simple enough, until you learn why it bends the way it does. The sweeping rear window presented a significant manufacturing challenge due to its large dimensions and complex compound curves. To solve this problem, the engineering fix was precise and nearly invisible. Instead of holding one smooth curve, the rear window transitions between two slightly different angles. Sitting right in the middle of the pane, the shift between those angles is so subtle that most owners spend years driving the car without noticing anything unusual. That tiny geometric adjustment kept Chevrolet out of legal disputes and kept assembly moving on schedule. Because Chevrolet never advertised one specific track-ready Camaro model, buyers could only get it by knowing the exact order code. Available from 1988 onward, the 1LE package turned the vehicle into a circuit machine with zero fanfare at any dealership. The car came equipped with braking components pulled directly from the Corvette, alongside a stiffer suspension setup and a cooling system built for sustained, hard use. Dealerships ran no television spots or print campaigns to promote the package. Customers had to order a clandestine combination of features, like the performance axle and an air conditioning delete, while most salespeople had no idea what the package actually delivered. Road racers figured out the secret combination, allowing the 1LE to build a strong reputation precisely because very few people outside the racing community knew it existed. Engineers completely changed the location of the gas tank for this generation. In earlier iterations, the reservoir sat beneath the trunk floor and consumed cargo space, frustrating drivers who needed to haul anything larger than a small bag. For the third generation, the development crew moved the tank above the rear axle to open up a deep rear storage well. Relocating a combustible liquid vessel impacts crash safety design, weight balance, and the entire routing architecture across the car. Chevrolet worked through all of those engineering hurdles just to give owners more usable trunk space. That redesigned cargo area turned up as a major selling point in early press reviews, showing exactly how much the old trunk layout annoyed buyers. Sitting near the top of the list for unusual factory options is a muscle car that produced 90 horsepower. Upon its debut, customers could order the vehicle with a 2.5-liter four-cylinder engine called the Iron Duke. At that power rating, quarter-mile times in a car weighing close to 3,000 pounds stretched past 18 seconds, placing the performance solidly in family sedan territory. Chevrolet offered this engine option to keep the base price accessible, while helping the brand hit strict corporate efficiency targets. Most drivers who chose the four-cylinder wished they had spent the difference on the V8, explaining why the trim faded from the lineup as the decade wore on. By 1985, certain Camaro models shipped with the 700R4 automatic transmission. This popular four-speed overdrive unit relied entirely on mechanical and hydraulic controls rather than electronic computers. Packed into those cars, the transmission included an early adaptive shift system that monitored driver behavior and adjusted gear changes accordingly. Relying on a mechanical throttle valve cable connected to the throttle linkage, the gearbox shifted based strictly on throttle position and vehicle speed. For a mid-80s road vehicle, that kind of responsive calibration sat well ahead of what most competing automakers were building at the time. Because modern electronic shifting did not exist on the 700R4, these vehicles utilized purely mechanical innovations that transmission specialists still study today. A quiet compromise affected almost every base model owner without them ever knowing. Engineers calibrated the suspension geometry around wide performance tires and built the wheel wells to match that specific width. Base models left the factory wearing narrow rubber instead. Strict government efficiency mandates forced this compromise, because wider tires create more rolling resistance, pulling down overall fuel economy numbers. Chevrolet needed every fraction of efficiency it could find to satisfy federal regulators. The car shipped with tires too narrow for its own chassis design, forcing buyers who wanted proper handling to purchase wider replacements at their own cost. The vehicle performed the way it was originally designed, only after owners modified the wheel setups themselves. One of the most beloved features of the era was the removable T-top roof panels, which came with a frustrating flaw. Enthusiasts loved the open-air feeling, leading Chevrolet to move a high number of T-top equipped cars through the 1980s. Out on the highway, a persistent problem appeared. Lacking the structural rigidity to compensate for the gap left by those removable panels, the vehicle body flexed slightly at speed. Whenever the suspension worked over uneven pavement, that flexing motion opened tiny gaps around the rubber seals. Water found those gaps reliably every time it rained. In wet markets, repair shops spent years pulling water-soaked carpet and replacing interior panels for owners who insisted the seals were perfectly tight. A factory revision in March 1984 introduced a new weather sealing material that effectively resolved the leaking issue for later models. Disassembling a 1990 model reveals an unusual noise fix that sounds completely invented. During testing, Chevrolet technicians discovered that the front wheel arch openings created a resonance cavity. This pocket of trapped air hummed at certain speeds and sent a low, droning noise into the passenger cabin. As a solution, assembly line workers cut blocks of closed-cell foam and packed them into the fender cavities before the cars left the factory. There was no public announcement, no dealer communication, and nothing printed in the owner's manual regarding the change. Cars built after the fix simply had foam where earlier cars had empty pockets. Years later, restoration mechanics working on these vehicles kept finding the material and spent hours trying to figure out why the factory installed it. Inside General Motors, an internal standard dictated that windshields across all vehicles could not exceed a 60-degree rake angle from vertical. Management enforced this rule to prevent optical distortion and veiling glare from reflecting off the instrument panel. The Aerodynamics team pushed back against the mandate using hard data. Wind tunnel results showed that a steeper rake angle improved airflow over the roofline and reduced drag in a measurable way. The design team proposed pushing the windshield to 62 degrees and brought the testing numbers directly to executives. Following an internal debate, the engineering exception cleared. By altering the glass by 2 extra degrees, aerodynamic drag dropped to a 0.32 coefficient, establishing a highly competitive figure for a passenger car during that era. One of the more embarrassing technical chapters in the car's history occurred early in production regarding fuel delivery. At its introduction, the base V8 received a system called Crossfire injection, which used two throttle bodies mounted at opposite ends of the intake manifold in a cross pattern. Chevrolet marketing presented the setup as modern and forward-looking technology. In actual practice, the system struggled to distribute fuel evenly across all 8 cylinders. The engine ran lean under hard acceleration and developed reliability problems that frustrated owners and dealers through 2 full model years. By 1984, Chevrolet replaced the troublesome system with a standard 4-barrel carburetor setup before introducing tuned port injection the following year. That 2-year Crossfire era leaves behind a spotty reputation that automotive collectors still debate at shows today. Wrapping 10 years of corporate compromise, technical workarounds, and mechanical ambition inside one body, the third-generation Camaro remains an enduring classic. Some of those engineering decisions aged well, while others did not stand the test of time. Every single one of those choices shaped the vehicle that mechanics continue to wrench on in garages right now. Drop your favorite detail from this list in the comments below, and if there is another classic ride with an unusual backstory, tell us which one you want covered next.